While the Trump administration had been mass deporting Venezuelans for months since he took office, let's examine why we, the United States, are the reason they are trying to emigrate here in the first place. In 2005, Venezuela started selling cheap oil to poor Caribbean countries like Cuba, Haiti, and Nicaragua, either on credit or in exchange for goods instead of cash up front, keeping energy costs low so these countries could invest more in healthcare, education, and food programs. In 2013, the Obama administration, realizing U.S. oil companies couldn't match Venezuela's generous prices, but we still wanted to dominate the market, launched the Caribbean Energy Security Initiative. And under the guise of helping them go green, we began to pressure Caribbean countries to switch to more expensive U.S. natural gas and renewable energy, something that required massive investments up front that these countries couldn't afford anyway. Now, in 2014, the State Department warned that countries dependent on Venezuelan oil could be destabilized economically and that eliminating Petrocaribe would create a serious humanitarian challenge in our near neighborhood. But that doesn't deter us, right? In 2017, before ultimately admitting we were seeking regime change, the first Trump administration began financial sanctions against Venezuela, preventing them from accessing U.S. banking and borrowing money, making it illegal for companies worldwide to buy their oil if those companies wanted to do business with the U.S. And since oil was what Venezuela's economy was mostly based on, 90% of their government revenue dried up almost overnight. We also blocked food and medicine imports, seized Citgo, a U.S.-based oil company owned by Venezuela, and froze $24 billion in their government's assets in U.S. banks. So now, since Venezuela couldn't afford to keep subsidizing oil to Cuba, Haiti, and Nicaragua, those countries had to cut social programs, leading to massive protests and emigration. 7 million people from Venezuela alone fled. 40,000 died from the medicine blockade. And until the Supreme Court stopped it, until a few months ago, we were deporting Venezuelans without trials, paying El Salvador to imprison them. To sum up, we destroyed a program keeping millions fed and housed because it threatened our profits. We knew there would be a refugee crisis, and as soon as that happened, we blamed them and used the crisis to win elections. While this follows the same playbook we used in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Nicaragua, where governments were achieving progress by using their own resources for their people, and then we destroyed them and blamed the chaos on socialism, Venezuela has had internal problems. U.S. sanctions have made everything much worse, cutting off Venezuela's ability to recover, causing people to die from lack of medicine, and forcing millions to flee here. What can we do now? We can volunteer with organizations helping asylum seekers, contact our representatives, and demand they end the economic sanctions. We can stop funding regime change there and use the money to address problems here at home. And we should demand accountability from the officials who created this border crisis that they now campaign on. Least of all, we can challenge the narrative because these are regular people just like us fleeing a problem we created.